My brother asked me to stand beside him on the happiest day of his life. Without realizing he was asking me to bless the woman who once broke me so deeply I didn't recognize myself for months. That was the line that kept replaying in my head as I stood in my kitchen, staring at the text message he'd sent me, casual, cheerful, oblivious. The kind of text you send when you're excited and have no idea whose wounds you're reopening. Bro, big news. I'm getting married, and I want you to be my best man. Can we talk tonight? My thumb hovered over the screen. My stomach tightened, a slow, cold knot forming beneath my ribs. I hadn't even processed the "I'm getting married" part. It was the second sentence that hit me like a blunt object to the chest. Because I already knew. Even before he told me her name. Even before he typed the words. I just knew. Some betrayals don't need to be spoken. They have a scent, a texture in the air. And in that moment, the air around me smelled like old wounds being ripped open. The kettle behind me clicked off, steam rising in small, ghostly curls. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I lifted the mug I'd been holding without noticing my fingers trembling slightly against the ceramic. I whispered out loud to no one, "Don't tell me it's her, but life doesn't pause for your comfort. It doesn't give you warnings or cushions." And my younger brother, my own blood, was about to confirm the one name I never wanted to hear again. We grew up close, my brother and I. 2 years apart. He was always the daring one, the one who broke his arm climbing the maple tree in our backyard. I was the quieter one, the boy who liked routines, who found comfort in predictability. Our parents used to joke that he was fire and I was stone. And somehow, through most of our childhood and early adulthood, that balance worked. He'd chase trouble. I'd pull him back. He'd borrow money he couldn't pay off. I'd lend it to him and help him sort out the consequences. When he dropped out of college for a year, I was the one who talked him into going back. We fought. Sure, brothers always do. But it was the kind of fighting that ended in laughter or a beer on the porch. I thought stupidly. Maybe that loyalty was something we both understood. Then came Lily. If I'm being honest, I still don't know whether she was my first real love or just the first love that wounded me deeply enough to leave a scar. She had that kind of presence, soft-spoken, thoughtful, with eyes that looked like she carried quiet storms inside them. I met her at a friend's dinner party. She'd laughed at some stupid joke I made, touching my arm lightly as if she already knew me. "Il fell fast." Too fast. Faster than a man with my temperament should have allowed himself to. But for 2 years, she made me believe I was finally building something stable and warm and lasting. I thought I was steady enough for both of us. Then one morning, 3 years before the text from my brother, she sat across from me at my dining table and told me she needed space. Those 2 words can sound so polite, but they can demolish you if spoken by the wrong person. And space is exactly what she took. Completely. Permanently. She left like someone late for a train, quickly, quietly, refusing to make eye contact. I didn't chase her. I didn't beg. But God, I wanted to. I told myself I had dignity. But dignity doesn't comfort you at night when there's an empty pillow beside you. My brother knew all of this. He saw me crumble. He saw me stop answering calls for a while. He saw me drink too much, sleep too little, and speak in half sentences that led nowhere. He knew I loved her. He knew what she did to me. And still, 3 years later, here we were. A message from him, waiting like a trap on my screen. When he called that evening right on time, with that eager tone he always gets when he's about to tell me something huge, I answered with my voice steady, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. He didn't waste time. "Bro, did you see my text?" His voice was light, almost dancing. "Yeah?" I said. "Congratulations." There was a pause on the other end. A small one, but enough. Do you want to know who it is?" I closed my eyes. "Sure." He took a breath that made the line crackle slightly. Not a nervous breath, no. A proud one. "It's Lily." Quiet. The kind of quiet that becomes its own sound. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The kitchen seemed to shrink around me. The walls felt closer. The floor colder. "Bro?" he said, cautious now. "You still there?" "Yeah. I know this is weird." He rushed on. "But it's been years. And you two weren't even— Don't finish that sentence. My voice came out steadier than I expected, but low, controlled. He went silent. I ran a hand over my jaw. It felt tight, like I'd been clenching it without noticing. How long have you two been together? I asked. There was another pause. Longer this time. Not long, he said quickly. Couple months. Maybe 3. Maybe 3. People only say maybe when the truth is too sharp to hold barehanded. Right, I answered. I swear we didn't. There was nothing back then. I would never do that to you. And maybe that was true. Maybe. But betrayal doesn't always happen in grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the small permissions you give yourself. The small lies you choose to believe. He talked for a while after that about the proposal, about how happy she made him, about how he knew this might be awkward but hoped I could see past the past. He even laughed once. A soft, uncertain laugh. As if he desperately needed me to laugh back to make everything okay. I didn't. I need some time, I told him. Of course, he said quickly. Take all the time you need, but you'll think about being my best man, right? My throat tightened. I'll think about it. We hung up. And, for a long time, I didn't move. The house stayed quiet. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator, and my own breathing, uneven and thin. I didn't cry. Not then. Some wounds don't produce tears, they just reopen silently, like they were waiting for the right moment. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have guessed, was that this wasn't just bad timing or unfortunate love crossing paths. There was a truth underneath their romance. A timeline that didn't match. A secret that would shift everything. A secret that would show me I wasn't just heartbroken years ago. I had been used, and the moment I uncovered it, I stopped being the quiet, forgiving older brother. I became someone who wanted answers. Someone who wanted his dignity back. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint buzz of cars on the distant highway. My chest felt heavy, like something inside me was trying to crawl out but couldn't find the strength. Every few seconds, my phone lit up on the nightstand with a notification, some group chat, some email, but I didn't touch it. My mind kept replaying the conversation with my brother. Couple months? Maybe 3? His voice had wavered when he said it, like someone stepping onto thin ice. The thing about thin ice is, it's not the crack that kills you. It's the silence right before the crack. I finally got out of bed around 5 a.m., made coffee, and sat at the dining table, the same table Lily once sat at when she ended things with me. I noticed something I hadn't seen in years. A faint scratch near the edge of the wood. She made it with her ring when she set her hand down too hard while we argued once. A tiny, stupid memory, but it made something pinch inside my chest. I needed air. I drove to my parents' house later that morning. Not to talk about the engagement, I wasn't ready for that conversation, but because I needed normalcy. My mother's kitchen had always been a place where the world made a bit more sense. She was cooking eggs sizzling in the pan, the smell of onions and butter filling the room. She turned when she heard me and smiled, though it softened when she saw my face. You look tired, she said simply. Didn't sleep. She nodded. My mother was good at knowing when to ask questions and when not to. Sit, eat. I did. The chair felt the same as it always had, the cushion sinking the way it did when I was a teenager. For a moment, there was peace. Then she spoke. Your brother came by yesterday. I froze with the fork halfway to my mouth. Yeah? I said, casual as I could manage. She didn't look at me. She kept stirring the pan. He said he had big news. He seemed nervous. Nervous. Interesting. Did he tell you what the news was? I asked. She shook her head. He wanted to wait until he talked to you first. Of course he did. My brother wasn't stupid, careless, impulsive. Yes, but not stupid. He knew exactly which landmine he was stepping on. He probably hoped I'd react well enough that he could tell our parents without drama, my mother added, almost as an afterthought. I think it's about a girl. He seemed excited. I stared at her. You didn't ask who? She smiled faintly. He's your brother. He'll tell me when he's ready. He swallowed hard. There was something about her innocence in all of this that made the betrayal feel sharper. Our family wasn't perfect, but we'd always believed we were decent, loyal. Breakfast sat on my plate untouched. My mother finally looked at me. really looked at me. "Something's wrong," she said softly. I opened my mouth to answer, but the words didn't come. I just nodded a little. "I'll be fine," I managed. She didn't push. She just reached across the table and squeezed my wrist, her thumb brushing gently over my skin the way she did when I was young and overwhelmed. I stayed a little while longer, helping her water the plants in the backyard, talking about nothing consequential, her neighbor's new dog, the weather, a movie she'd watched. But my mind wasn't there. It kept circling back to the same uncomfortable realization. If my brother and Lily had been together longer than they claimed, someone else would know. Someone always knows. The following week, my brother invited me to dinner at his place. "Just to talk," he said. I didn't want to go, but avoidance wouldn't make the situation disappear. I needed to look him in the eyes. I needed to see if the guilt was there. His apartment was neat. Surprisingly so. He'd cleaned for the occasion. The smell of lemon-scented cleaner lingered in the air. He greeted me with a smile that didn't fully meet his eyes. "Glad you came," he said, voice light. I nodded. He poured us drinks, whiskey for him, ginger beer for me. I wasn't in the mood to numb the edges. Saturday. He looked nervous, his knee bouncing, fingers tapping lightly against his glass. "I know this is weird for you," he started. "But I'm really happy, man. I didn't expect to fall for her. It just happened." The way he said it made something twist in my gut. "It just happened?" I repeated. He nodded quickly. "Totally unexpected." I studied him. My brother, for all his impulsiveness, had always been terrible at hiding things. His tells were obvious: avoiding eye contact, over-explaining, the way his hands fidgeted. Right now, he was doing all three. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Yeah, anything." "When did you and Lily start talking?" He blinked. "I told you maybe 3 months ago." "You sure?" I asked quietly. His jaw tightened. A small movement, but enough. "Yes." "Why?" I shrugged casually. "Just making sure." He didn't relax. He took a long sip of his drink, eyes flicking away. This was the moment I felt the first real shift in my gut, the first undeniable clue that something didn't line up, that maybe this wasn't just an uncomfortable coincidence. He was hiding something, and he was bad at hiding it. We talked about surface-level things for the rest of the evening: wedding, venue options, honeymoon ideas, how many people he planned to invite. He avoided any mention of Lily for most of it. That, in itself, was a clue. A man in love usually can't stop talking. When I left, he hugged me tightly. Too tightly. Like he needed reassurance that I wasn't slipping away. Driving home, the city lights blurred through my windshield. My mind kept drifting back to his face, the way he hesitated, the quiver in his voice. People lie with words all the time, but the body keeps the score. A few days later, the second clue arrived. And it didn't come from my brother. It came from someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, my friend Marcus, a guy who had seen me at my worst after the breakup. We met for coffee one afternoon. He'd heard through mutual circles that my brother was engaged. He was the kind of friend who could read me too well. "So," Marcus said, stirring his drink, "you holding up okay?" I nodded. "Trying. Can I ask something?" He said slowly. "Sure." "Did your brother ever tell you he ran into Lily the year after your breakup?" I froze. The cafe noise, people chatting, cups clinking seemed to fade. "What?" I asked. Marcus frowned. "Yeah, I thought you knew. I saw them once, maybe 2 years ago. They looked like they were talking pretty intensely." My stomach dropped. "How long ago exactly?" My voice came out flat. He thought for a moment. "Winter. Had to be a year after she left you, right before your brother moved apartments." My pulse thudded in my ears. He saw them 2 years ago. Not 3 months. Not maybe 3. And the look on their faces, he said, intense. Focused. Not casual. Not stingers. "You sure it was them?" I asked, even though I already believed him. "Positive. I remember thinking it was weird, but I figured you knew." I didn't speak. I couldn't. Something icy crawled down my spine, a realization I'd been avoiding. They'd known each other longer. Much longer. And my brother had lied. That was the moment suspicion became certainty. And beneath the certainty, something else began to take shape. Not anger, not heartbreak. Resolve. A quiet, steady resolve I hadn't felt in years. I needed the truth. All of it. And once I had it, I would decide what to do. I drove home from the cafe with the windows down, letting the cold air hit my face in sharp bursts. I needed something to jolt me awake, something to keep my thoughts from spiraling too fast. But the wind didn't clear anything, it only sharpened the edges of the truth forming in my mind. My brother had lied. Not once, not by accident, but deliberately. And Lily, who once cried in my arms, who once told me she'd never hurt me on purpose, she had lived 2 lives I never even suspected. I parked outside my apartment and just sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. My heartbeat was steady but heavy, like a slow drum against my ribs. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to vomit. But mostly, I just felt numb. Lies don't always break you with fireworks. Sometimes they break you with silence. That night, I opened my laptop with a clarity that felt almost dangerous. I wasn't looking for closure. I wasn't looking for ways to forgive. I was looking for proof. If there was one thing my job taught me, corporate project management, long hours, tracking timelines, it was that numbers don't lie. People do. I pulled up old photos, old emails, old messages. I wasn't proud of it, but pride had nothing to do with the truth. The photos were innocent enough. Birthdays, family barbecues, random selfies with my brother. But as I scrolled, one detail kept poking at me, something I had missed because, back then, I wasn't looking. The dates, the timestamps, and the way Lily always seemed unusually distant around the times my brother visited. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. So I dug deeper. I found a picture from 2 years ago, my birthday party. I had invited Lily even though we were trying to figure things out at that point. She had come early and left early, claiming she had a headache. In that photo, I noticed something I had never seen before. My brother wasn't in it. He'd said he had to work late. Back then, it didn't mean anything. But now, I stared at that photo for a long time, my breath shallow. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I searched my brother's old Instagram posts. He didn't post much. Mostly gym pictures and food pics. But occasionally he put up a story or two. And one from around that same month caught my eye. A picture of a coffee shop with a caption, "Good talks, good people." No tags, no faces. But in the corner, barely visible, was the sleeve of a jacket I recognized instantly. Lily's jacket. The one she left at my place after a rainy night months before she walked out. I shut my laptop, not because I had seen enough, but because I finally understood something. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't unexpected. This wasn't some whirlwind romance that happened years after we were over. This was a slow, quiet overlap. A betrayal committed gently enough that neither of them had to face the ugliness of it out loud. I leaned back on my couch, staring at the ceiling, my breathing rough. I felt the old wound from years ago reopen with new sharpness, not because she left me, but because she didn't leave me to find herself, like she claimed. She left because someone else was already waiting. Someone who should have been the last person on earth to cross that line. My brother. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted to. God. I wanted to. But a confrontation without certainty is like swinging a fist in the dark. You end up hitting yourself more than anyone else. I needed one more piece. The piece I had been avoiding since the beginning. I needed to talk to the person who created the first wound. Lily. She agreed to meet me after only a few minutes. Her message was enthusiastic. Too enthusiastic. Of course, I'm glad you reached out. We should talk. We met at a small cafe downtown, the same one where she once told me she liked how quiet my soul was. Funny how people romanticize the things they later destroy. She arrived exactly on time, looking composed in a cream sweater and jeans. When she saw me, her face softened into something almost mournful. "Hey," she said gently. I nodded. Saturday. The server brought water. The ice clinked softly, filling the silence. "You look good," she said. Her voice carried a strange nostalgia, like she was trying to place me in a memory she had no right to revisit. "Thanks," I said. "I'll get straight to it." She swallowed. "Did you and my brother ever talk before we broke up?" Her reaction was immediate, a flicker of something behind her eyes. Guilt, recognition, memory. Something she hadn't prepared well enough to hide. "No," she said quickly. "Not at all." I didn't break eye contact. She shifted. "I mean, we met a few times with your family, but nothing like that." "Did you see him the year after we split?" I asked. Her breath caught. "Barely, but enough." "Why are you asking me this?" she whispered. "Because the timelines don't match," I said calmly. "And people keep telling me things that don't line up with what you're both saying." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her fingers began tracing the rim of her glass. A nervous tell. One I remembered painfully well. "Lily," I said quietly, "I'm not here to ruin your wedding. I just want the truth." Her eyes glistened. "The truth is complicated," she finally said. "No," I answered softly. "The truth is simple. Lies are complicated." That broke her. She exhaled shakily, shoulders drooping, eyes dropping to the table. "We started talking before the breakup," she said in a small voice. "But it wasn't romantic. It wasn't supposed to be anything. He just listened." "Listen to what?" I asked. "To things I couldn't tell you." That stung in a way I didn't expect. "What things?" She hesitated. "You were distant near the end." I almost laughed. "That was after you pulled away first." "I didn't pull away," she whispered. "I was trying to figure things out." "With my brother?" Her eyes closed. "No," she said, but the word had no strength. "It wasn't like that at first, I swear." I leaned back, my jaw tense. "And later?" I asked. "After we ended?" She hesitated. "We bumped into each other a few months after. We talked. It felt easy." "Did you sleep with him before you left me?" I asked it calmly. Too calmly. She looked horrified. "No, never." But she wouldn't look me in the eyes. "Did you want to?" I pressed. Tears gathered in her eyes. "I don't know," she admitted. There it was. The truth she had been protecting. Not a mistake. Not a coincidence. A choice. A betrayal that started long before anyone admitted it. I nodded slowly. She reached for my hand. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I never—" I pulled my hand back. "Don't," I said softly. Her eyes filled. "I'm sorry." I stood. She stood too. "Please don't hate me." "I don't," I said. "But I finally understand you." And I did. Maybe for the first time. As I walked out of the cafe, the evening air hit my face. I felt strangely calm. Because now I had enough truth to confront the one person who still owed me honesty. My brother. This wasn't just about a woman anymore. This was about dignity, family, loyalty, and the line he crossed without looking back. The confrontation wouldn't be gentle, but it would be necessary. I didn't drive home after leaving the cafe. I didn't call anyone. I just walked block after block until the city lights blurred into streaks and my legs felt numb. There's a strange stillness that comes after a truth you've been avoiding finally settles inside you. It's not relief. It's not closure. It's something heavier but clearer, like a fog lifting to reveal a landscape you didn't want to see. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone had 3 missed calls from my brother. He must have sensed something shifting, but I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. I needed a plan. Not revenge, not destruction, but resolution, the kind that leaves no room for twisting, no room for rewriting history, no room for him to pretend nothing happened. I sat on my couch, still wearing my jacket, staring at the wall while the city hummed outside. My mind replayed the conversation with Lily over and over again. Her expression when she admitted it, her hesitation, the quiet guilt she couldn't hide. They didn't just find each other. They drifted toward each other while I was breaking apart. I needed to hear it from him, and not over the phone. 2 days later, he invited me to the family dinner our parents hosted every Sunday. Normally, It was a warm, predictable ritual. My dad complaining about work politics, my mother insisting we take leftovers, my brother teasing me about how boring I was. This time, I accepted the invitation because it was perfect. A public place, neutral ground, a space where he couldn't lie without the truth leaking into his expression, where I could watch him react without him running or yelling or pretending. And maybe selfishly, because I wanted him to look into our parents' eyes while he answered me. When I arrived, my mother hugged me tightly, the kind of hug that lasted a second too long. She sensed a heaviness on me. Mothers always do. My father was stirring something on the stove, glasses fogged from the steam. He smiled when he saw me, but my brother... He entered the dining room with a forced lightness in his steps, like he was acting out a version of himself. He clapped my shoulder. "Hey man, you good?" I studied him for a moment. He was trying too hard. His eyes darted away too quickly. His smile was too bright. "Can we talk outside?" I said quietly. His smile flickered. "Sure." "Yeah, sure." We stepped onto the back porch. It was cool out, the kind of evening when the air tastes like rain before it falls. My parents' soft chatter filtered out through the screen door. My brother shoved his hands in his pockets. "Okay, so what's up?" I looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time in my life, I didn't see my little brother. I saw a man who had lied to me. "Why didn't you tell me you and Lily talked before the breakup?" I asked. His face changed instantly, not shock. Not confusion. Recognition. Like he'd been waiting for this. He cleared his throat. "We didn't talk like that. It wasn't..." "Don't," I said softly, "don't start with lies, not now." He froze. I continued. "I know you saw her a year after. I know it wasn't 3 months. And I know you two started sharing things you shouldn't have long before I was out of the picture." His jaw clenched. The muscle near his ear twitched. "Who told you that?" he asked carefully. "It doesn't matter." He rubbed his forehead. "Look, things were complicated. You and her were falling apart. She needed someone to..." "To what?" I asked, my voice calm. "Replace me?" He looked away. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Then he said quietly, "I never meant for anything to happen while you two were together." "But it did," I replied. He swallowed hard. "Not physically, emotionally," I said. "Which is worse?" He didn't deny it. He just stood there, shoulders slumped, breathing uneven. Finally, he whispered, "I didn't plan any of this. I didn't wake up one day deciding to fall for her. It just happened." "Then you should have walked away," I said. "You were the one person who wasn't supposed to be an option." He winced like I'd slapped him. We stood there for a long moment. I watched him try to form words, fail, then try again. "I thought you were over her," he said finally. "You never talked about her anymore." "I had to stop talking about her to survive," I replied. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes glistened, but not enough to fall the kind of tears you feel embarrassed to show. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," he whispered. "But you did," I answered. "You both did. And then you lied about it. For years." He nodded slowly, shame washing over his features. He scratched at his jaw, then muttered, "I didn't know how to tell you. You were already hurting. And so you made it worse," I said. He didn't argue, didn't lift his head. "Why did you ask me to be best man?" I asked. "Why put me in that position? Why make me stand next to you while you marry someone who blindsided me with your help?" He looked up at me then, eyes wet, voice cracking. "Because you're my brother," he said. And I thought, if you could accept it, maybe it meant I wasn't the worst person alive. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Because it was honest. Pathetic, selfish, but honest. He didn't want my blessing. He wanted absolution. But I wasn't ready to give him that. Not yet. Before I could respond, the screen door creaked open and my mother peeked out. "Dinner's ready," she said gently, eyes darting between us. She sensed tension, but didn't push. My brother wiped his face. "We'll be right in." She nodded and went back inside. I turned to him. "We're not done," I said. "I know," he whispered. We went inside. The dinner felt wrong, like everyone was pretending nothing was off. My mother served food with quiet worry. My father filled the silence with stories about work. My brother chewed without really swallowing, his eyes down the entire time. I barely tasted anything. But one thing crystallized in my mind as we ate. This wouldn't be resolved through half-truths behind closed doors. If they wanted to move forward with this wedding, if they wanted me there, if they wanted any chance of rebuilding what they broke, it had to happen in the open. No more secrecy, no more careful omissions. So I made a decision. I would go to the engagement dinner they planned the following weekend, where both families, both friend groups, and even Lily would be present. And there, I would bring the truth to the surface. Not to punish them, but to take back the dignity they tried to bury under silence. The wedding weekend would become the reckoning they'd been avoiding, and I would no longer protect their comfort. The engagement dinner was held at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the bay, the kind of place with warm string lights, curated playlists, and servers who glide instead of walk. Everything was designed to feel celebratory, serene, hopeful. But as I stepped out of the elevator and saw the tables arranged with white linens and gold-trimmed place cards, all I felt was the unmistakable hum of a lie waiting to be exposed. Guests mingled with glasses of champagne. Laughter floated through the air like nothing in the world was wrong. My parents were already seated, smiling awkwardly when they spotted me. Friends of the family turned and waved. My brother was near the back, laughing too loudly at something one of his coworkers said. "No," I said quietly. "We'll talk when everyone is here." His face went pale. He opened his mouth to argue, then shut it again when he saw I wasn't negotiating. Lily stepped closer, her expression gentler but rehearsed, polished, diplomatic. "Can we speak privately?" she asked. "Just for a moment?" "No," I said again, my voice even. Around us, the room continued like normal, or so it seemed, but the three of us were suddenly an island of tension in the midst of celebration. Lily swallowed. "I know you're hurt," she said softly. "I truly do. And I'm sorry we didn't tell you everything sooner. But we never meant—" "Don't," I said. "Not now." She looked away, pressing her lips together. My father called out from across the room, "Dinner's starting soon! Everyone take a seat!" There it was. The moment. The room gradually settled. People took their places, the chatter quieting into a soft hum. The sun had dipped low, leaving behind streaks of pink and gold over the water. The host tapped a microphone. "If everyone could take their seats, we'll begin with a few words from the couple." Polita applause. My brother and Lily walked to the front, standing before their guests. She went first, thanking everyone for coming, thanking their families, thanking me by name for being such an important part of their story. That line alone almost made me laugh. Then my brother took the mic and began speaking, voice trembling slightly. He talked about love, about timing, about how life sometimes surprises us with who we're meant to be with. He did not look at me once. When he finished, the room clapped warmly. Then the host said, "Would anyone else like to say a few words?" The air shifted. People began turning toward me, because they knew, even if no one said it, that I always spoke at family events, birthdays, anniversaries, graduations. And maybe some part of them sensed something tonight. I stood slowly. My mother's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My father subtly shook his head. "No," eyes widening. My brother's entire body stiffened. Lily whispered something under her breath. I walked to the front. The microphone felt warm, like someone else had just used it, someone who didn't know the weight of what was about to follow. I looked out at the room. Old friends, cousins, family friends who'd known me since childhood. Both sets of parents. My brother, Lily. I breathed in deeply. Then I spoke. "I want to congratulate my brother and Lily," I began, voice steady. "They've built a beautiful story together. But tonight, I'd like to add a piece of that story that hasn't been told yet." My brother closed his eyes. Lily's face drained of color. The room fell absolutely silent. "Some of you know that Lily and I dated for a long time," I continued. "We didn't end because we fell out of love. We ended because we were struggling, and life got heavy, and I didn't know how to keep myself together, let alone us." I paused, letting the truth settle. "But what I didn't know at the time," I said, "was that while I was breaking apart, the two people I trusted most were building something together behind my back." A murmur spread through the tables, quiet, sharp, disbelieving. My mother gasped softly. My father straightened in his chair, jaw tightening. Lily looked down, fingers trembling. My brother stared at me, eyes pleading. I continued. They didn't cheat, not in the physical sense, but they crossed lines long before I ever knew it. And after our breakup, they waited more than a year before telling me they'd reconnected again, but that wasn't the truth either. They minimized. They softened. They hid the timeline so I wouldn't feel betrayed. Lily's father whispered something harsh to her. My brother's face was red, not from anger, but shame. I'm not here to ruin anything, I said. I'm not here to punish them. I came because I refuse to carry their silence anymore. If they want to build a marriage, it should be built on the actual truth, not the sanitized version. No one spoke, not a sound. Even the waitstaff froze. Finally, I added, I wish them well. Truly. But I needed everyone here to know the full story, because I've spent years holding it alone. I nodded once, set the microphone down gently, and walked off the stage. I didn't look at anyone. I didn't wait for reactions. I didn't sit back down. I walked straight out of the restaurant and into the cool night air, leaving behind the soft echoes of whispers that grew louder as the door swung shut behind me. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy, not healed, but free. The elevator ride down felt strangely quiet, like the world had been muted. No music, no footsteps. Just the soft hum of machinery lowering me away from the rooftop and the life I'd finally stopped protecting. When the doors opened to the lobby, the air hit cooler, calmer. I stepped out, walked past the marble desk, and pushed through the glass doors into the night. The breeze carried the faint smell of salt water and car exhaust. Traffic hummed a block away. Somewhere in the distance, a ferry horn echoed across the bay. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing, grounding myself. Then I heard the elevator ding again. Footsteps followed. Fast, unsteady ones. Hey, wait, my brother's voice. I didn't turn around. He jogged up beside me, slightly out of breath, his dress shoes clacking too loudly against the pavement. What was that? He demanded quietly, like he didn't want the words to escape into the open air. You couldn't have talked to us privately? You had to… Tell the truth? I finished for him. Yes. He ran both hands through his hair, pacing once in a tight circle. You blindsided us, man. No, I said, staring straight ahead. I simply removed the blindfold you put on me years ago. He stopped pacing. You made it sound like we cheated. I made it sound like what it was, I said calmly. An emotional betrayal you tried to rewrite into something clean. He opened his mouth, but no defense came out. And I knew why. There wasn't one. Instead, his voice cracked. I didn't want to lose you. You did, I said softly. When you chose secrecy. He flinched because he knew it was true. Behind us, the elevator dinged again. This time, it was our parents. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They approached like people walking into a hospital room, bracing for news they didn't want to hear. My mother reached me first. What happened? She whispered. What exactly did they hide? My brother looked anywhere but at her. I answered. More than they told you, I said. More than they told me. I found out the real timeline a few days ago. My father's jaw tightened. Is that true? He asked my brother. My brother swallowed but didn't deny it. My mother stepped back like she'd been struck. You should have told us, she said. You should have told him. We didn't want drama, he muttered. You created it, my father said sharply. Not yelling, just deeply disappointed. Silence settled in. Thick, heavy. Lily appeared at the top of the stairs leading down from the entrance, her dress shifting in the wind. She didn't hurry this time. She walked slowly, almost cautiously, her eyes already red. She stopped a few steps up, putting her closer to us, but not among us. I'm sorry, she said quietly. To all of you. We didn't handle things the right way. My father nodded once. A polite nod. A distant one. My mother didn't speak. My brother stepped toward her as if needing backup, but she didn't move closer to him. She simply stood there, hands clasped, accepting whatever came. The balanced kind of tension filled the night, not explosive, not chaotic. Just truth surfacing in small, controlled ripples. Is the dinner continuing? Lily asked softly. I doubt the mood recovered, my father said bitterly. I exhaled. You should all go back. I'm not returning. My mother touched my arm gently. Come home later, she whispered. Please. I will, I said. My brother reached out, hesitating before saying, Can we talk? Just us? Not tonight, I said. And not until you're ready to be fully honest. He nodded, staring down at the pavement. My parents walked Lily and him back inside. Nobody shouted, nobody pointed fingers, but the body language said everything: tight posture, careful steps, quiet disappointment. The crack had formed. Not a shattering, but the kind of fracture that doesn't heal without being acknowledged. I watched the glass doors close behind them. Only then did I let myself sit down on the low brick wall near the sidewalk. Cars passed. Strangers walked by without glancing twice. In that moment, I felt something unfamiliar, not triumph, not sorrow, just release. A lightness in my chest I couldn't remember feeling since long before the breakup, since long before the betrayal, since long before I learned how to swallow my own pain so others wouldn't have to face theirs. My phone buzzed with messages, friends from the dinner, cousins, people who'd been there. Some supportive, some confused. One from an uncle. Proud of you for speaking up. I didn't reply to any of them. For once, I wasn't managing anyone else's emotions. I was finally living in my own. After about 20 minutes, the restaurant music drifted faintly through the rooftop vents above, but the tone was different now. No laughter, no clinking of glasses. Just low chatter, subdued, cautious. The night had shifted. The weekend was no longer a celebration. It was a reckoning, and it wasn't over yet. The wedding was still 2 days away, and the truth had only just begun to circulate. The next morning, the group chat for the wedding party lit up like a bonfire. Some messages were polite, some were cautious, a few were brutally direct. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I made myself coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and listened to the faint hum of traffic outside. The sun hadn't fully risen yet. The world was quiet, suspended like it was waiting for me to decide how this story would end. Around 9 a.m., my father called. We're at the hotel, he said quietly. There's a tension here I haven't felt in years. I didn't need details. I could imagine it. Relatives whispering in hallways. Bridesmaids texting each other in clusters. Groomsmen trying not to choose sides, but inevitably choosing anyway. And in the center of it all, my brother and Lily trying to pretend nothing was wrong. My father sighed. You were right to tell the truth. Just be ready. People are asking questions. Let them, I said, because for once, the weight wasn't on me. I arrived at the wedding rehearsal that afternoon because my mother insisted. She said if I stayed away entirely, it would feel like I was punishing everyone except the two people who deserved the discomfort. When I walked into the gardens behind the venue, conversations dipped. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to notice. A few cousins nodded respectfully. An aunt squeezed my arm quietly. One of the groomsmen gave me a firm clap on the shoulder and said under his breath, "Took guts, man." I simply nodded. My brother stood by the archway lined with blooming white roses, holding a clipboard and pretending to be busy. Lily was beside him, speaking to the officiant, but not really looking at him. When she finally turned toward me, I saw something new in her eyes. Not anger, not shame, just reality. The recognition that the story they tried to tighten and sanitize had unraveled, thread by thread. We started the walkthrough, and the coordinator tried to keep everything cheerful, but the energy limp. The bridesmaids were overly polite. The groomsmen were stiff. Even the officiant chose his words carefully, like the wrong phrase might ignite something. It was painfully civil. On to dinner. The rehearsal dinner was held in a small, private room, warm lighting, heavy wooden tables, soft piano music. The kind of place meant for intimate celebration. But half the guests looked uncomfortable. Eyes flicked from me to the couple, back and forth. Conversations were heated. People were watching how we interacted. And then, like fate wanted to solidify the tension into something permanent. My uncle stood up. Not just any uncle. Uncle Rob. My father's older brother. A man with no filter and zero patience for dishonesty. He lifted his glass. I'd like to make a toast. My brother stiffened immediately. Lily reached for her wine like she suddenly needed it. I closed my eyes for half a second. Here we go. Uncle Rob cleared his throat. His voice carried across the room with that effortless authority only older men with lifelong confidence possess. I want to wish the happy couple well, he began. Truly, marriage is a big decision, and love, well, it's complicated. We all know that. People shifted uneasily. But I believe weddings should be built on honesty, he continued, slow and deliberate. Because without it, it's not a marriage, it's a performance. My brother's jaw tightened. Lily looked down at her plate. And considering the speech we all heard last night, he added, I think honesty is exactly what's been missing here. My brother whispered, Rob, don't. No, Uncle Rob said calmly. I will. He looked around the table. Everyone here heard what your brother said yesterday. And if even half of that is true, and from the looks on your faces, it is then you two owe that man more than a seat at your wedding. You owe him a hell of a lot of respect. Silence. Heavy. Embarrassed. Unavoidable. My mother put a hand over her mouth. My father stared into his drink. Several bridesmaids exchanged glances. A couple of groomsmen nodded subtly, like they had been waiting for someone to say it out loud. My brother finally stood. Enough, he said, voice low. We've been through this. No, Uncle Rob repeated. You've avoided this. Then he pointed at me, not accusatory, but acknowledging. That man loved her, he said. He trusted you. He trusted both of you. And you two decided your relationship mattered more than his dignity. Fine. It's your life. But don't rewrite history and pretend you handled this clean. Lily's eyes filled with tears. My brother looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. And if you want this family to support your marriage, Uncle Rob finished, start by telling the truth instead of hiding from it. He sat down. No applause. No cheers. Just silence settling like dust after a storm. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My brother swallowed hard. Thanks, Rob, he said bitterly. Really helpful. But Uncle Rob only shrugged. Healthy roots, healthy tree. Rotten roots, rotten marriage. Your choice. The dinner continued in strained fragments, low murmurs, forced smiles, clinking forks. But the shift was undeniable. The couple wasn't untouchable anymore. People had permission to question them, to hold them accountable. And they did. Quietly. In small groups. At their tables. In the hallways. The truth had finally stopped being my burden. It had become theirs. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was upset, but because, for the first time in years, my mind wasn't tied in knots. I lay on my back in the dim glow of the streetlight outside my window and listened to the hum of cars in the distance. My chest felt lighter, my shoulders less tense, like someone had finally lifted the weight I'd been carrying. By morning, I decided something simple. I would go to the wedding, not for them, but for myself. This story had been written around me for far too long. It was time to end it on my terms. The venue was beautiful, painfully beautiful. Rolling hills, white chairs arranged in perfect rows, soft music drifting through outdoor speakers, the kind of scenery people choose for their forever. But beneath it, tension vibrated like a low electrical hum. Guests whispered more openly now. Not rude, but curious, cautious, quietly forming opinions. Some nodded to me respectfully as I arrived. A few pulled me aside to say they admired my honesty. Most simply glanced between the couple and me, piecing together what kind of triangle had been quietly hidden inside this picture-perfect ceremony. My brother avoided eye contact. He stood near the altar with his groomsmen, adjusting his tie, pretending the wind was the reason it wouldn't sit flat. Lily was inside the bridal suite with her mother, who looked like she hadn't slept at all. When I walked past the open door, I saw Lily glance at me, not with guilt this time, but with something far more human. Understanding, fragility, maybe even remorse. But I kept walking, not out of bitterness, but because something in me had finally detached from the hope that she'd ever give me closure. I didn't need it anymore. Families took their seats. The officiant prepared his notes. The music shifted soft piano, almost too delicate for the mood. When the procession began, I stayed still, watching the bridesmaids walk down the aisle. Then the flower girl, then Lily. She looked beautiful, but beauty can't soften truth. Not anymore. Her eyes flicked toward me briefly, a tiny motion, but full of unspoken things. Apology, sadness, fear. Then she turned back toward my brother, who waited with a strained smile that didn't reach his eyes. They held hands. They recited vows. They exchanged rings. Everything went smoothly, outwardly. But the room hadn't forgiven them. When the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," there was applause, but not the enthusiastic kind weddings usually have. It was polite, measured, almost obligatory. The consequence wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was quieter, heavier, and far more lasting. People didn't look at the couple with admiration. They looked at them with awareness. The truth had settled into every corner of that ceremony. At the reception, I found a quiet spot on the balcony overlooking the hills. The breeze carried the sound of laughter and clinking glasses, but I felt distant from it, like I was observing a world that no longer held me in the same way. My brother found me there. He joined me at the railing, hands gripping the wood, knuckles white. "For what it's worth," he said, staring straight ahead. "You were right." I didn't respond. He exhaled shakily. "I didn't realize how much we messed up until last night. Until today, actually. Everyone's looking at us differently." "Truth tends to do that," I said softly. "I wish we'd handled it better," he admitted. "I wish we'd respected you more from the start. That would have changed everything," I said. Not angry, just honest. He nodded slowly. "I know." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he added, almost whispering, "Despite everything, I hope we're not done as brothers." I turned slightly to look at him. "We're not," I said. "But we're not the same either. It'll take time, and real effort." He nodded. "I'm willing to earn that." "I hope you are," I replied. And surprisingly, I meant it. Not out of obligation. Not because he was blood, but because healing doesn't always mean cutting ties. Sometimes it just means redefining them. Later, Lily approached me on the balcony, alone. Her makeup was intact, but her eyes looked tired, genuinely tired. "Thank you for coming," she said. I nodded. She clasped her hands. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I never wanted to hurt you." I looked at her calmly. "I believe that, but intentions don't erase impact." She swallowed. "I know." We stood there, quiet, the wind brushing past us like it was gently nudging the moment to an end. "You deserved more honesty than we gave you," she said. "I'm sorry. It wasn't enough to rewrite the past, but it was enough to end the chapter." "Take care of each other," I said softly. It was the closest to a blessing I could give, and the only one I was willing to offer. She nodded, eyes glassy. "We will." Then she walked away, and I felt something loosen inside me. A knot, untangled. A bruise, finally fading. I left the wedding early, stepping into the warm afternoon light. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because justice had been served in some dramatic way, but because I had reclaimed something far more valuable: my dignity, my boundaries, my voice. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's simply telling the truth and letting the truth do the rest. When I drove home from the wedding, the sky was beginning to dim the kind of soft blue-gray twilight that makes everything feel quieter, more honest. I opened the windows, let the wind rush through, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I wasn't even relieved. I was simply me. Finally. People talk a lot about forgiveness, about letting go, about choosing peace. But what they forget to say is that peace isn't passive. It isn't just something you wake up with one day. Peace is earned. Peace is claimed. Sometimes peace is the moment you finally stop protecting the people who hurt you more than they ever protected you. I didn't destroy their wedding. I didn't seek revenge in the way movies like to pretend revenge works. I didn't shout or point fingers or tear anything apart. All I did was tell the truth, and the truth took care of the rest. My brother and I are rebuilding slowly, quietly, with boundaries we should have set years ago. Lily and I will never be in each other's lives again, but the bitterness is gone. I don't need anything from her anymore. Not closure, not apologies, not explanations. Sometimes dignity is the final chapter. Sometimes walking away whole is the real revenge. And as I pulled into my driveway, listening to the engine tick softly in the growing dusk, I realized something simple. I hadn't lost anything. I'd simply stopped holding on to what was never mine in the first place. So let me ask you this. If someone you loved betrayed you quietly, not with actions, but with secrecy, would you tell the truth like I did? Or would you keep the peace at the cost of your own? Tell me in the comments. And if my story meant something to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel. There are more stories to tell, and more truths worth speaking.